All right. Welcome to the next episode of Verdantis's Thought Leadership Series. I'm Kevin Joseph. I'm head of marketing out here. I can see we have folks joined in from across the globe. Today, we're talking about an exciting topic, which is procurement transformation and how key procurement processes have an inherent capability of transforming supply chains, maintenance, production operations, and asset management in at enterprises. So today we are joined by Bob Cataldo, uh, Robert, as he's formerly known. Bob is a dear friend and a seasoned professional in the procurement space. He's held various senior positions across industries, agri processing, high tech, data center installation, personal care manufacturing. He's held more than six positions across 16 years of experience. And he currently leads Procurement Consulting Services as the managing director. So, very exciting guest, also extremely relevant in today's scenario. Bob, welcome to the show and thank you for joining in. You can take a few minutes, introduce yourself and what
Sure.
you're doing at Procurement.
Thank, thank you, Kevin. It's a real pleasure joining you today, and I'm very excited to share some insights on how companies can modernize their procurement and create measurable impact and value. What we do at Procurement Consulting Services, we try and take procurement departments and lead them from a cost center, which they're typically known as, to profit drivers. I focus primarily on small and mid-sized companies. I have over 30 years experience in supply chain across a variety of different industries. Delivered over $25 million worth of savings throughout proven strategies that make procurement a core competency for a company. When procurement becomes your competitive edge, profitability soars. So the whole trick here is to make procurement work for you, not the other way around.
Absolutely. I mean, going back a few years, how did we get here? What was your first encounter with procurement as a role, and how did you embark on this as a professional journey?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. When I got out of college way back when, I worked for I was in a management trainee program for a large department store in New York City called Abraham and Straus. They were very similar to a Macy's. And what we did as management trainees, we had the option after a few weeks of just a general training of going into a purchasing line, which they're very big on that, or the merchandising end of it. I chose purchasing and procurement. So I figured I was always very good at hunting out bargains and things like that. So I had the opportunity to choose between one of those two, and I chose procurement, and I've been with it for the rest of my career.
I see. And at what point do you think you sort of realize that procurement, maybe the future of procurement is not seen as a cost center, but more as one that builds tangible cost savings and
Right.
profitability outcomes.
Right. Well, as a one of my positions was as a lead buyer for Honeywell in the Houston area, and one of the things that we did, it was it was a very transactional job where you were buying stuff that was really needed for our technicians out in the field. But one of the things that really struck me is that we were purchasing over and over again from a particular company that gave us the best value. So I was thinking again, trying to think outside the box. What if we formed a contract with this supplier, making them the first choice to go to for a variety of different items and services, and they would give us preferred pricing as well as guaranteed stock. So that's kind of where this all started, as opposed to just being a very transactional approach.
I see. And in conversations, you've often been described as folks who say that uh, you transform the entire process and you turn it from a cost center into a profit driver. What does something like this look like in practice? What are some challenges that you faced in the process?
I would say basically thinking outside the box, because even if in the example with Honeywell, I didn't think that we can do so much more, as opposed to just taking orders, placing them, and then maybe just getting a few different a few cost savings here and there. There's a lot more that we can do. Contracting is I think the best way to do it. That kind of obligates you, and it obligates the supplier to deliver a certain level of performance. So definitely thinking what other opportunities would there be for you should they arise, and are you prepared to act on them?
I see. And going over your experience, you held quite senior positions across multinational, mid-market, and enterprise companies, right? I would assume this requires collaboration across international suppliers, right? So I know you work with suppliers across Mexico, Brazil, Asia, and even Europe. What are some challenges that procurement leaders face during these international collaborations, and how do you best address them?
One of the best ways to look at this thing is that you're dealing with a person, and just because they may not speak English as well as you do, does not mean that they're dumber, that they don't have the experience that you do. They're just not used to transacting in your language. So I think it's a would be a very bad idea if you short sell them, and you treat them as if they're not at your level. That's a bad mistake, because then they'll eat your lunch, as we say here in the U.S. So it's very important to have an open mind, but to at least consider some of these people that you're dealing with as your equal. And I think if you do that, and if you take that kind of approach, you'll be far better off.
Absolutely. I mean, it's sort of a back to basics approach. Business has no language. It's
Absolutely.
that makes sense. But as far as what's your approach to balancing cost pressure when it comes to these international relationship and delivering long term value with these suppliers?
Basically, having good data is a definite approach. Without good data, you can't make good decisions. So it's very important that you get good data out of your systems. What Verdantis does extremely well is that not only do they find data across the web and across the internet through AI, but they basically organize data in a way that makes sense to you and how you want to read it.
Absolutely. And in your across your career, right? A big chunk of it has been around standardizing processes, which includes procurement, supply chain processes, data management processes. Can you share a few examples of what made the biggest dent across your experiences as far as standardizing these processes are concerned?
By having certain standardized processes and procedures, it allows you to basically do things with one way, and then maybe 6 months later do it again. But you have to be very flexible. One of the things which I kind of pride myself always is working with legal to create a standard MSA, master services or master supply agreement. Use that as your
Yeah,
template going forward. The reason why you want to be able to push your paper or your document out to a supplier is that essentially, let's be frank, it favors you, it favors the company. And what you want to do is to put your terms and conditions out there. Now, there are certain companies, very large companies, like let's say Microsoft or something like that, that will only use their paper. It doesn't matter how big you are or how much money you have to spend. Um, so it's yeah, you just have to keep that into consideration. But you, as the customer, should try and at least have that kind of leverage. So having a standardized contract that you can push to suppliers is definitely a way to go. Let them tell you that they want to take this clause out or this clause out.
and I mostly speak in the context of asset intensive industries because that's most of the companies that we work with. Uh, but in these industries, I know you've held at least a couple of positions uh, at a few manufacturing companies and even at an oil and gas
Sure,
company, right?
sure.
Uh, I mean, I understand that maintenance and procurement functions in these enterprises, they're generally not that modernized and they tend to operate in silos. Uh, how does a procurement professional like yourself help in bridging that gap?
You have to prove. So my one of my philosophies is that you want to basically negotiate nationally, but execute purchase orders on a local level. And the best way to do that is to prove your worth in procurement. One of the things that I've come across with is working on capital projects. Many times procurement is called in at the end of the project to essentially just paper it up and do a PO or negotiate just a standard contract. They want to, procurement should always endeavor to be at the front end of that and to work as part of the team, so that they can take care of a lot of the negotiations, a lot of that upfront as much as possible, and not be driven by time constraints. Especially when dealing with capital projects, which can be time intensive.
I see. And when we talk about something as rudimentary as supplier rationalization, right? How do you approach something like this? Because I know a lot of procurement professionals, uh, they fear that they lose, let's say, flexibility or leverage, right? So how do we best address a gap like this?
I define supplier rationalization as choosing the right supplier for the right job. A lot of that comes in working very closely with your stakeholders and your senior management. You can have a series of 5 suppliers that say they can do the same thing, but again, given the fact that if you have a little bit of time, get samples, see a product that they produce or the services that they provide, and work very closely with your stakeholder, because they're the ones who are going to be actually working with these people on a daily basis. Once you do the contract, once you do the purchase order, procurement kind of takes a step back and really only gets involved if there's a problem. So again, work very closely with your stakeholders to determine if this is the absolute best supplier for this job. You do that regardless of cost at the beginning, and then you can go ahead and negotiate the best possible pricing and cost drivers that you can. So it's extremely important that you settle on a supplier that can do the job to the satisfaction of your stakeholder and end users.
I see. I see. And
Does that make
by
sense?
the sound of it, procurement, yeah. By the sound of it, it sounds like, procurement processes or even some of the supply chain processes, they're they're heavily process driven, right? And it seems that maybe that leaves room for AI agents or automation to take room, right? And sort of automate a lot of these, especially as far as MRO or procurement processes are concerned. So
Agreed.
how do you see that shaping asset intensive industries or even mid market companies like the ones you worked at?
Okay. Let me answer that question by making a distinction here, Kevin. There's a difference between purchasing and procurement. The
Yeah.
purchasing is the day-to-day operations. That can be eventually automated as much as possible. Once a certain commodity or a certain part number of something that you want to buy is tied to a particular contract, there's no reason for the buyer to get involved if everything else has been predetermined and pre-established. You know what the price is, you know that they have it in stock, it's a common item that they purchase, that you purchase, and it just automate that system as much as possible. Procurement is kind of the next level up, where you have people, and at the end of the day, it's still a people business, but you can use AI to find better suppliers. If you're used to dealing with 2 or 3, why not evaluate 8 or 9? And they could be across the globe. They can be right around the corner from where your office is. But you just don't know about it. So AI, and I think good data management comes in handy when you're searching for suppliers who can do the work. A word of caution here: this is not procurement's choice. Um, your job as a procurement professional is to bring these suppliers to the end users and stakeholders and have them evaluate them for to make sure that they're good. And then it becomes their choice. Your job is to negotiate the best terms, conditions, and pricing.
And to have this implemented, have this process implemented, right? I would assume that procurement teams need to coordinate with IT teams, work very closely with them. In your experiences, right, implementing automations or even AI or agentic AI, which part do you think was more challenging, implementing the actual AI technology or getting the underlying data right in the first place?
I would say getting the right data in the first place is the most important thing. But AI can help you do that. Good data will lead to good decisions made. As I say in my book, Understanding Procurement, garbage in, garbage out. So if the data that you have going into your decision making process is good and sound, then more than likely your decisions about choosing one supplier over another will be at least validated with good data. And that's how you can prove that you're making the decision based on solid data. Again, AI is really good because it gives you more choices. It gives you more suppliers if you implement it in the right way. AI can also be used for risk management. Is this supplier, is this supplier a good risk? Are they going to be around in six months if you wind up signing a long-term contract with them? So again, these are just the more information that you have, the better it is in making the right decisions.
I see. And to take a more practical example, let's say a mid-sized manufacturer, and this is an issue that we hear a lot with our clients, and we believe that data management can help the category managers, the procurement teams to manage this function of it better, right? Um, let's say a mid-sized manufacturer tells us, hey, we're drowning in excess inventory of spare parts, of consumables, and at the same time, we're also facing downtime because of outages, right? How does a procurement professional or a category manager approach something like this, and what is your take on an issue like this?
Most important thing, it begins and ends with clean data. If you define what's more important is that once you have some clean data, you categorize your spend and everything that you typically buy in different categories and commodities. At that point, you would enable a solid RFX process. And by RFX, I mean it could be an RFI, request for information, RFQ, request for quote, or the big one, RFP, request for proposal. It's very important, though, that you do not offer the winner, if you want to call it that, or the top supplier all of the business. You can offer them to lion's share, 70%, 75% of the business, and offer and split the rest up with another two or three. The big difference in that is that should something happen with that initial supplier, they could have a strike, they could have a natural disaster at their main fabricating plant. You have other people that you already have under contracts. You don't have to reinvent the wheel to go ahead and get that product. It may be a little bit more expensive, but at that point, you are able to continue your business. So give the top supplier the lion's share of the business. Plus, also get creative. I mean, if you have over inventory, why do you have to purchase it and hold it at your facility? No, have the supplier hold it. It's dedicated inventory, and whenever you release a purchase order, you can have a blanket order. Whenever you release an order, they ship it directly. It's dedicated inventory only to your particular company. So it's important that you think, again, just like I said at the beginning, a little bit outside the box on what is the best way to keep the flow of goods and services flowing. So again, there is a few different things that you can do depending on your current circumstances.
I see. So it's more like a hedging strategy. You identify which suppliers sell which spare parts, and you make sure that you don't put all your eggs in one basket. You sort
That's
of keep them.
essentially it. Don't put all your eggs in one basket because that basket may not be there when you need it the most.
Absolutely. No, I love it. I mean, that sort of underscores how important it is because we have to maintain a very rigid database of suppliers, the spare parts they sell. It has to be clean. We have to have backup suppliers. I would imagine master data and all of these pieces are the fuel that sort of runs the procurement process behind this. That makes a ton of sense. In your experience, as an individual and as someone leading a team of category managers, sourcing professionals, what is an advice that you keep giving out for young professionals just starting off in this journey? And how do you sort of groom them for taking up similar positions in the future?
If you decide that this is going to be your profession going forward, as it was for me, work very closely with the people that you are supporting. They can define what success means. And every company is going to be different. I've worked for several companies in director level positions throughout my career. Each one of them had a different take on it. One company say, I don't care what you do, I don't care how ethical you are, but I need cost savings. I need to reduce my expenditure from $10 million to $5 million. Now that may or may not be practical, but and again, always put ethics in front of everything, no matter what you do, because your reputation is at stake. And so again, find out what success means to your stakeholders and your senior management. And basically, most of all, have a plan. If you can plan your career, and if you can plan from a short-term standpoint, what am I going to do for the next 6 months or a year? How are you going to lead a particular department? At least you have a plan. But a word of caution: be ready to pivot at a moment's notice. One example is that I was hired as a senior global procurement director, and 2 months later, I was pulled out of that facility. Out of that experience, and told, okay, you're going to be leading the effort to change our ERP system going from Oracle EBS to Oracle Cloud. So again, be ready to pivot at a moment's notice. So use your experience to do that. But if I were telling a young professional, go ahead, get as much training as you possibly can, get a higher education, especially if the company is willing to pay for it, and just never stop learning. Always be better, faster, and cheaper than everybody else.
I see. No, that makes a ton of sense. So build expertise horizontally while also delving deeper into procurement itself. That's fantastic. Yeah,
Exactly.
I love it. This is great, Bob. That's all the questions I had for today. Thanks so much for taking the time and joining us. For our viewers, I'll be sure to share Bob's credentials, his website link in one of the posts later. Bob, as part of this series, what we generally like to do is a quick fireside chat where we ask
Sure.
you some fun personal questions. One of which that I really wanted to ask you is, what's one thing outside of procurement, because that's all you keep talking about, right? That keeps you energized and keeps you motivated throughout the day.
The thing that energizes me is getting the best deal, even in my personal life. Whether I'm buying a car, whether I am trying to get gas for that car, I will go an extra mile in order to save 10 cents because I know of a particular gas station that is saving more. That just drives my wife absolutely crazy. But that's just the way I'm wired, and that's the profession that I chose. So I might as well do it for myself when it's coming out of my own pocket versus the company's pocket.
So you're a natural at this. Comes naturally to
Yeah,
you.
yeah, it's in my DNA.
All right, I love it. What's one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self getting into procurement today?
If I were to go back in time and advise my younger self 30 years ago, I would say learn more and do it sooner. Get your advanced degree a little bit sooner. All this is going to come in handy. I view an advanced degree as not necessarily learning about your profession more, but it just opens your mind on how to think. So I'm a big proponent of that with my people that I've had under me. I was a big proponent. They would approach me. Hey, I'd like to go get an MBA and things like that. I would grease all the skids and do whatever I can to make sure that the company values that and that these people are serious about their profession. And I think that's probably the main thing that I would do. Get your certifications so that when you go and you speak, you speak with kind of a voice of authority. Don't brag or anything, but I'm just saying, if they look you up, and a good supplier will, I'm going to be dealing with this guy for the next 3 years. Who is he? He's going to see MBA, CPM. He's going to find all those little letters after your name. It just gives you more authority.
What apart from books or even podcasts or resources, is there anything that you would like to recommend any of our viewers who will trying to build a career in procurement?
There are a couple, yes. The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It's a landmark work, and again,
Yeah.
it nothing to really do with procurement per se, but once again, it teaches you how to think. It teaches you what to look for. One of my favorites of that, I think, is step two, is begin with the end in mind. So if you are starting a procurement department, if you're putting forth a new policy, always think, what's it going to look like at the end of the day? And then you go back and you say, okay, then if that's what I want it to look like, what are the steps I need to take in order to make that happen? Another book which I would recommend is Give and Take. It's about negotiation. It's by Alex Karras, who also does a series of training seminars and webinars. Extremely, really, really, really good. I've attended his seminars twice in my career, and each one of them I always get a little extra piece of knowledge. Very, very much worthwhile.
See, that's awesome. We'll be sure to link the resources for all of those in one of the posts. Again, thank you, Bob. Thanks for taking the time. With this, we'll wrap up the session right now. And for our viewers, we'll be posting a video of the entire session directly on LinkedIn, so you can have a view along with Robert's credentials and all of the resources that he suggested. Bob, do you have a final note that you'd like to make for our viewers?
Yes, if I can leave your viewers with just a couple of one word compliments of what I would do is be persistent in your career and be creative when the opportunity presents itself. There's no such thing as one answer to solving a problem.
That's
So
true.
just look for the best possible way that it can be done, and just open your mind.
That's awesome. Great. Thanks a lot, Bob. Really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you
And
very much. It's been a pleasure, Kevin.
thanks.
All righty, bye bye.
Thanks, folks.